touch has thrilled me like the rush of the wind, and your arms have held me safe from a rolling sea. I'm like, yay, we have a guest in person.
I know. I'm happy to actually be here in person.
I know when you
time.
said it. So when I love, I texted you and you're like, should I come in person? I was sitting there, I was going, okay, don't put pressure on someone to come in person, but I really wanted to come in person. So I'm so glad you came in person.
Me too.
I love you. We're people.
Oh yeah.
You know, we want to be in person. And now you get to see the studio where you've been here before.
I know. I was here.
But you've been there.
I've been there.
Yes.
I was virtually here, but
yes, but now you're here.
Yeah.
So this is Tommy Hensel. Tommy Hensel is a very dear friend who has a book that, there's so much to talk about. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah.
First of all, good morning, good afternoon, wherever we're at in the world for this. If it's good morning, afternoon, we don't know where we're at because we're in Chicagoland and it keeps telling us it's summer, then spring, then winter, then somehow fall.
It went down into the 30s the other night. I'm like, what?
Then last night, so I went for a walk and at lunch, I'm trying to, go during lunch, and I went during lunch, and it's just 20. Listen, I'm like going to be down to the minutes, 23 minutes around my block. If I'm walking at a good pace, if I walk at a really good pace, it's 21 minutes because it's like 1.3 miles around. And I had several phone calls, so it was not what it should have been. So it was a little longer. But it's 56 degrees. I had a jacket on. I take it off, and I'm carrying it on my arm because I'm like, it's whatever. And then Robin comes home, and we were going to one of our son had their thespian inductions, but he's already inducted. But they just talk about what's the show's going to be next year and have these senior skits. So he was a part of all that. So it was like 2 hours of all of this stuff. And I'm like, hey, Google, what's the temperature? It's 70 degrees. I'm like, no, it's not. It's 10 minutes to 7. It was like this. No.
Yeah,
so I completely had to change clothes. And I'm like, I can't, because then it's freezing in the building or it's too hot. And so was that in between? Robin's got a sweater on. I've got a t-shirt. So
I'm with you. I'm through with the weather here. Yesterday, it was like kind of chilly, right?
Yeah.
And then it rained for 10 minutes. And then it was warmer after it rained. Please explain that one to me.
I don't understand.
I know. I was downtown for that, and I'm like, what? I'm
glad that's not only me.
No,
and then the wind was and I was glad I wasn't. I waited for her to come because I'm like, I'm not driving the van in this weather because when it's windy, it's just about to pick me up. So, anyways, that's our weather complaint for where we live. And people are like, why do you live in Chicago? I said because it's fantastic where we're at
in the summer.
And whatever is fall and spring.
You're still lying to them.
Yeah, I know. I know. But there's places I don't want to move. And who knew that we weren't going to be the ones that have, the extremes that kind of the coasts are having. We don't have the same major issues who knew Illinois would be a good place to stay.
Surprise me. I'm not from Illinois.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not either.
I'm a transplant.
Yeah, same. So, but so far, we're doing all right. But I'm excited to hear because our whole point of the podcast is always mentoring, talking about who we mentor, who we, and we've done all this, but it's so fascinating. You've retired from a part of your life. You're not retired. You're not going somewhere.
Well, it's like a friend of mine who retired from her career maybe 5 or 6 years ago has semi-retired on her LinkedIn profile.
Oh,
and
that's
I'm like,
good.
Okay, I think that's probably where I am.
Because it's not different, and we started off, you were introduced to me by a good friend of ours, Jarvis, Jim Jarvis. We call him Jarvis. So, or Jar, like I've been texting his wife. And we became friends through the years.
Yeah.
And so we were colleagues who became friends, and it's the same thing with, in our industry where it's like, we've been friends and then you're like, oh yeah, you come and do a show. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. You do shows. We don't think about that part of our lives anymore when you're kind of this is part of who we are. This is part of our lives. And so you're just in a different spot in your life, but we're still all together in this industry.
What's so weird is that I made my decision to retire kind of quickly.
You did.
Something happened, I won't go into negative, in January around my job, and it was kind of like that last little piece that pushes you over the edge. Yep. And I went home and I thought, I have to quit this job. And then I thought, I can't afford to quit this job. I was like golden handcuffs, So,
Yeah.
but then I thought, I haven't thought about the retirement thing in a long time. And I've been in the state university retirement system for 20 years. And the math actually worked. And so I made this sudden decision. And on April 23rd, my first day of waking up without being employed, I suddenly thought, for 30 years, if you had sat next to me on a plane and said, hey, what do you do? I would have been able to say, I am the director of fill in the blank theater company or fill in the blank art center. And now I have no frigging clue what to say when somebody asks me that question.
Hey, Tommy.
Literally, it's like 30 years and suddenly, what am I?
You're an artist. You're an artist. You're an arts supporter. You're a part of one of the top arts organizations in the country, right? So you're a part of that, and you still mentor and consistently are there for artists. And you are an artist yourself, not just as an actor, as a performer, but the reason why you're here today for many reasons. I mean, listen, if you're not working, I'm saying that we love a sidekick. So, and you're not a sidekick, but we, right? I guess I'm like, we're happy to have company. We all love talking to everybody.
Yeah.
But you're an author now. I know I'm not alone in saying this. Like, I so admire being able to do it because my stuff isn't published. The plays I've done, no, I haven't published any of it. I mean, they're copywritten.
Yeah.
I have copywritten music, but I don't have a book. I've written a million things.
Yeah.
So the idea that you have started, and I was there from the beginning because you called me and you were like, "Oh no, what did I do? What did I do?"
When the publisher said, "Hey, let's go ahead and sign the contract,"
and you were like,
"Okay."
I just signed, and I remember you're like, "I just signed something,"
and it was February of last year.
Yeah, like what? And look at that. Look at where we're at.
I know.
You started a book I just want to right? You started something in February. You had the idea, and everybody has that. The Great American Novel or whatever that, we all have that in our brains, but you took the action and did it.
Yeah.
So no matter what anybody says, and our friend Kevin Pease did the same thing. And you're like, I so admire what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
That's so.
It was hard. And I have to tell you that the only thing that made it possible was the publisher put me with a series of editors who kicked my butt. I mean, they gave me really tight deadlines. They were very clear that if you don't make this deadline, it pushes your book out an extra 6 months or an extra 3 months or whatever. And I'm like, okay, then just keep me on task. And I think only maybe 2 or 3 times did I actually have a contentious moment with one of my editors where they really made me angry about something. And then normally
that's pretty amazing.
It's not bad.
We're all passionate artists. Let's have that very real conversation, right? We're very passionate people.
I'm fairly direct when that happens, and I basically called one of them up and I said, never again.
Good for you.
Do not ever say that to me again.
Good.
There are better ways to criticize me than the way you did. But overall, it was a really exhausting but exhilarating experience at the same time.
Yeah.
It's weird. I wrote a blog post on my Substack recently on the Eating Adverbs Substack.
I loved the Substack thing, by the way. I love it so much because I hear about it. My niece introduced me to Instagram 10 years ago, and now I'm Instagram. I'm like, please don't give me anything else. And then you shared the Substack, and I was like, I love Substack, but now I'm like, now it's another rabbit hole for me to go down to.
Me too, but
it's better reading.
It is, and it's full of authors, and that's the thing is there was a huge supportive author community on Substack, and we're all following each other and commenting on each other's posts and restacking each other's posts.
Listen to that. I love that.
It's really nice because it's mostly either self-published authors or hybrid published authors like I am. Because in the hybrid model, the publisher didn't do all the work. I had to put some money up front.
Okay.
But it was only seed money, and then they did all the rest of it. So they provided all the support. I provided some funding up front, and ultimately the trade-off is I get 100% of the royalties. They take nothing once the book is published.
Wow, which is not normal.
Which is why I thought, you know what, I don't want to go with self-publishing because that is a painful thought. I didn't even want to think about how hard that would have been.
Yeah.
I had a huge team behind me, that, I paid some for it, but really what I paid was minimal compared to the hundreds and hundreds of hours that they have given
and what
me.
the profit will be, and what the profit of that will be.
And a design team to design the cover, and a marketing team to help me with all of the social media. All of it came as part of the package. So it was a good choice for me.
Yeah.
The hard part was writing a book while I was holding down a full-time job and a second full-time job as a volunteer for Heartland Performing Arts. Trying and finishing up my wine certification at the same time,
and doing shows with us,
and doing shows with you. I'm like, what? What was I thinking?
But what is that old? If you need something done, you ask a busy person every time, because I got that. And I'm so much. It's so fascinating to me because I need a deadline. So I'm writing. I had a little breakthrough a few weeks ago on my musical where this whole thing kind of came to me, and I just wrote all the scenes. I have all the scene, not like all the dialogue, but the concepts of each scene with a concept of a song, and kind of the whole thing. But I mean right? I need the deadline.
Yeah.
If I have a deadline, I didn't realize how much pressure I work under and how well I work under pressure.
Me too.
And what is that? And I'm trying to analyze that. I'm like, why do you stress yourself out? Why do we want to stress yourself out?
And I tell you, the early breakthrough for me was right at the very beginning of the process. For the first 8 weeks, I had an editor that they called the positioning editor. And her job was specifically to get me to hone the concept of the book. And by the end of that 8 weeks, I was required to have a chapter structure already created so that then I could write to the structure.
Wow.
And so at the end of those 8 weeks, I had the 27 chapters of that book mapped out.
And then you just have to put the detail down.
Yeah. And
that's fascinating.
And it was fascinating to me because that's not how I normally work. Yeah. I didn't have to write it in order, but knowing that I had 27 individual units and I understood how they kind of worked together gave me the ability to stop working on one thing and write something over here because I knew where it would go, rather than just throwing it all on the page and wondering where am I going to put all of this. So I think that was really helpful because I didn't realize I needed as much structure as I do, apparently.
I think we all do. I think we all want to believe in the free, right? Here's a blank page. Congratulations. Here's that. And I think it made me think, when you said that, it made me think about film. Did you know? I didn't know about film. The only movie I remember that was shot sequentially was Boys Don't Cry with Hilary Swank. You remember that incredible film, but everything else. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know why that was such an epiphany, because I'm not a film. I'm a film lover, but I've never been on a film set. I hadn't until that point. Danny's actually been in a movie when he was a baby, by the way. I have a picture of Danny as a baby in a film, and I'm like, wait, what? Because it pops up. But the film is not sequential.
Oh yeah, no.
That through line, that responsibility of people that are on that to remind you, oh, your friend died the last scene. We haven't done that scene yet, but your friend's dead. So now you're in the scene where you're like, what?
Well, the good thing is they've got it all mapped out. So they're creating that shooting schedule based on, a lot of times it's based on economics. Like, okay, we've got this venue that we're going to shoot 6 scenes in.
Yeah, you're in a house. Yeah, you're in a warehouse. You're outside.
Yeah, and now we're going to go do all the outside scenes next week, kind of thing. So, but that's kind of how it worked for me in this book. Is I knew where it was going to land at the end, and the very last thing that I didn't write was the conclusion. And the editors were clear, don't waste your time, because until you finished the other 26 chapters, that last chapter is not. Some of them are very short.
I know, but it's just it's fascinating. It's so amazing to me, and what an accomplishment. I mean, that alone has to be. You have to be feeling that you're done with this particular chapter. Go ahead and use the you're done with a particular chapter in your life. Yeah, but you're not. But you're not. You're just you just have a different hat on. In that part of our world. So it's just a different hat.
Well, the weirdest part for me was the day I left my job, the next day I flew to London, as you know,
Smartly.
because hello.
Go away. Go do something else.
I was gone for 10 days. I was 5 days in London and 5 days in Portugal. But I went to London because last year I finished my Wine and Spirit Education Trust diploma. So I have my highest level wine certification. And I already had the pin and I had the diploma. But once a year, they have a graduation ceremony.
Which was so cool.
That you can go to if you've graduated, if you finish in the previous year. And I'm like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I've spent 6 years.
That's
studying
that's more than I spent in college.
Me too.
Yeah.
And well, kind of no, I was an undergraduate for a really long time.
Okay.
But so maybe it was about the same amount.
Mine was 4 plus my internship. So 4.5, but yeah.
Yeah, but I decided, you know what, I earned it. So I went to London. I walked across the stage. I got my diploma.
Those were really cool. That was really cool.
It
like
was
the
cool.
whole ceremony was really.
Oh my God.
That whole thing was
and
really cool.
The weirdest part is there were 475 people graduating in person that day from the previous like 18 months of people passing the test.
I didn't realize it was that many.
And they graduate in alphabetical order based on the name of the school that you went to, because there's course providers all over the world. And the American Wine School in Chicago was alphabetically the first one. So there were the 6 of us from the American Wine School were told, you're going to be the first 6 people to walk across the stage. Well, I was alphabetically the first one in the list. So I was the first graduate that walked across.
So everybody saw that. Yes. That's really.
I was like, what? I'm like, okay, get it out of the way. But then I had to sit there for 2 hours and watch 475 other people graduate.
And then did they send certificates to the other people who did it online? Probably?
Yeah. And in fact, they mentioned their names because there were a lot of people who were online, like participating in the ceremony.
Oh, that's really cool.
But anyway, so I did that. And then I came back from Portugal where I went to visit some friends. I'd never been there. It was awesome, by the way. Go to Portugal.
The pictures are incredible.
They know that I'm a horrible horseback rider, but they put me on a horse anyway. And we went horseback riding on the beach. I'm like, okay, I could deal with it.
That's such a dream.
Yeah,
even though beautiful. I don't have horse energy. Horses, I unnerve them. I think the horse was a little nervous because it figured out pretty early on that I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But that's probably what it is. But there were 3 of us, and so the 2 horsey people were on either side of me, and my horse was trained to follow the horse in front of it, so it was good. That's good.
But so I get back, and on Monday, May 4th, I woke up for the first time and didn't have to get in my car and drive to work, and it was the weirdest moment of disorientation for me. To suddenly think, oh wait, I don't have to do this. And you know who gave me like the best answer? Gwethlyn Bronner. We both love Gweth. She was the director of the James Lumber Center for the Arts at College of Lake County for like a jillion years. And she retired 4 years ago. And I posted on my LinkedIn that I had no idea how to answer the question, what do I do? And she responded, you answer the way I do, anything I want. And that was yes. And so I wrote a blog, I wrote a Substack called Anything I Want, and discussed.
That's on my list. Yeah. I have my list of things I need to read.
Yeah,
that's on it.
But you know what? I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I mean, not to say that I'm gonna like just be a bum and not do anything with my life, but yeah, it's weird to suddenly wake up and go, hey, I can go back to sleep, or I can get in the car and go to the gym, or I can go to a museum. I can go drive. I can do it. Yes. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. And, and in full disclosure, I am putting myself out as an arts consultant, particularly in the performing arts world. And I have a consulting gig that starts in June.
Yes. Thank goodness. We're thrilled for that. Is it announced? We can.
Yeah, it is announced. So, Lisa and I were part of the team that founded Heartland Performing Arts, which produces the Midwest Arts Expo. And that was 4 years ago in June that we were incorporated. So it was literally 4.5 years ago that we all sat down and said, my dad's got a barn, let's do a show.
Yes. And we all threw all of our love behind it and said, this has to happen. And we did.
And much of our sanity. And
that's fair.
I feel like I've lost my mind.
I don't know if I'm
why I said why a lot during the 4 years, but I was president of the board for the first 3 years. And then I stepped into the treasurer role the last year. But I decided, you know what? It's time for this organization to take the next step into more professional, just a more professional way of doing business. And because it's 100% volunteer led and we're all burned out.
It is. And every other conference that we've gone to has a particular group of people that are being paid. So we need to start.
I'm a fast talker, I guess. I convinced the board to let me resign from the board and then hire me back in June as a consultant. So
I don't think anyone would ever accuse you of being a fast talker.
Well,
that's not your person.
Well,
that's not
kinda,
your. I accept that, but you have the experience.
I do.
So
and also
convincing people is part of what we do.
Yeah.
Bring this artist in, do this, have this part of the arts, but you have the experience.
Well, what I realized is that I hold so much institutional memory that I have not put down on paper just because I was too busy to do it. So now I've got the leisure to be able to do that for the next 7 months, to really work with the organization to get all that information out there so that, you know, if I choose to stay on, I can, or I can pass it on to somebody else, but with a playbook, not making it up as we go.
That's impressive to do it, first of all, and to be able, because every single phone call I have as an agent, as an artist, I'm like, oh, that's never happened. It happens this many years, 16 years later, that I'm still having those things. So if you can get anything on paper that can help us, that's fantastic.
I'm working on it.
There's so much of it. And we all talk about like, oh, please don't retire. Please don't go. There's so much institutional knowledge in life with this industry that I see people that are coming in who do want to know. There's people that don't want to know. There's people who do think, I got it, I can do this. And we've watched them all fail and sink, or they're about to, or we hear about their places are about to sink. And it's not reaching out to the people with that institutional knowledge is so sad to me, to let that go by and not take what that is and combine it with what they think the future looks like for them, because we don't want to see history repeat itself. No, we don't want to see people make those same mistakes. If we're honest, there's some people that I feel like you've earned it. Go ahead, make the mistakes. Not that, it is rock the boat. We always are positive, but there's moments too where it's like, okay, if you think you have this and you're going to not be good people about the industry part of it, then good luck, because you're going to be on your own. And if you have this network that we have, we will all do anything, because, and how many are one of our friends that's a lawyer that comes to the conferences said we're the only industry that shares our trade secrets.
I know. I remember when he said that.
And we're all like,
but it's totally
we
true.
Do. Yeah, because we want us all to succeed, because we accept the symbiotic relationship that this is. We are in a forest that we all need to exist together in order for all the trees to grow. Yeah. We really do. And if we don't help each other, then if that venue goes away, that doesn't just affect that I played there. That affects the people that don't have jobs in that building anymore. And there were hundreds of other acts that came through there. Yeah. It affects everyone. Yeah. And we do care that way, as much as, and we are one big family. Again, like I've said on the show many times, there's that cousin that you see at Thanksgiving every 17 years, and you don't need to see him again, but it's fine. They're still part of your family.
We're a big, crazy, dysfunctional family.
And yet functional. You have we both have our quotes, because I have because yours is book related. Yeah. First, we thank Lynn and Doug Steffen for our support from One Stop Foods, 4301 South Lake Park Avenue in Chicago, 773-624 4444, and they take SNAP and EBT. And I was just at Doug's. We had a surprise. Lynn threw a surprise party for Doug, his 65th. Oh, nice. He's very proud of that. So his mom came in town from Texas. So I had never been to Harry Carey's, and it was the one in Lombard, and it was just absolutely lovely. We had the best time, but everyone there was just so happy to be there and support them. So they're such huge supporters of the arts and supporting our podcast. So we always thank them, and give Doug another shout out for another happy birthday. My quote today does feed into what you're doing. I always have my iconic Taylor quote, so I thank her. She said, this was of her last album, and she said, I was so proud of the music and so excited about this project from a creative standpoint. And that, when I read that, I thought that's exactly what we're talking about, is being proud of our art. But my point for all of this too was remembering what the point of my podcast is, which is the mentoring, supporting. And you have always supported everyone I know. Every artist that ever comes to your place has always felt that love and support everywhere you've been. So it's our turn to support what you're doing. Well, thank you. Yeah. So you do your quote when you're ready, but it's also what that creative standpoint for you. I want to hear all of those feelings that you're having about that. And
you don't want to hear all the feelings I'm having about this.
the ones we can say, well, we can say whatever we want.
No, it's weird because the dichotomies of what I'm feeling are extreme. I'm feeling like absolutely terrified and excited. I'm feeling happy and sad.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really depressed and elated at the same time. I feel like I'm just stretching in all directions. And I think I really am. I don't know. My last Substack post, which you probably haven't read yet, the one about losing my luggage.
Yes. I saw that because I saw you lost it. And then I was
okay. So here's that story. In 1989, I graduated from college in 88, took a year off. And about halfway through the year, I was, earning money as a florist. I was actually a floral designer for a while. And I just had this moment where I suddenly realized I need to do something to change my life. So I literally put everything in storage, went off and worked summer stock theater for the next summer, and then bought a backpack and went to Europe for 3.5 months by myself and went backpacking through Europe. So I flew through Brussels to get to London. And I got to London and my luggage went to Munich. That was very exciting. And so it took them 2 days to get my luggage back to me. So my first time out of the country, I fly to London and they lose my luggage. Okay, that was in 1989. So 2 weeks ago, I flew to London for the first time in like 25 years, but starting this whole new part of my life, this brand new, like me exploring something new. I got to London, went to get my luggage. It was not on the plane. It was on the next flight.
No.
Yeah. So I had two choices. They said, well, we might be able to get it to your hotel tonight, which I translated as your luggage is gone forever and you're never going to see it. Or you could wait for the flight to arrive and pick up your luggage. Well, it was 4 hours. So I had to sit in the baggage carousel at Heathrow Airport for 4 hours. But I suddenly realized, wait a minute, this is like a bookend. I'm going to get a little woo-woo and spiritual here, but I feel like the universe was telling me something. It was like, think about that, like really unsure of themselves 24-year-old who stepped off of a plane in London for the first time alone in a foreign country with no luggage. And now look at the 61-year-old version of that person who has now come full circle back to the same city, having that same experience, but dealing with it very differently. And also, I think it was just a message saying, and I say this in the book at one point, is a spiral looks like a circle until you realize you're higher up. And so I realized that I had not just come full circle, I had spiraled up and I was at the same point on the circle, but way up here instead of way down here.
Yeah.
So I feel
that's good.
So I feel like the universe was saying to me, take a deep breath. This is a new beginning. You're starting something. And I truly feel that,
Yeah, that's what. So my friend Allison, I was talking to yesterday, she said things can you can look at it as things happen to you or they're happening for you. So I am all, we're all the woo woo.
It happened
about things.
It
I
happened
believe
for me
so much. I believe so much in, people are a sign for you when someone comes to you, when the song, the visual, whatever the visual, cue you've had with a family member of, I have a thing with change. My dad was always picking up change and I will find change at the most bizarre times. I've walked that path 17 times over the last hour and suddenly there's, a quarter sitting there. I had one time and of course it was frozen under the van, a $20 bill because it was so cold and slushy. But I kept looking down while I was pumping gas and I'm like, what the heck? And I just brushed a little bit of the snow off and it's a frozen $20 bill right under the van. And I was like, oh, that's cute. That's thanks, Dad. Thanks so much. So I took, and it was funny because I took it off and I had one of my bandmates with me. I was driving home and I had to put it because it was freezing and I put it up on the, dash to kind of, so it would thaw and everything. And I was just like, this is perfect.
I'm not going to make a joke about cold hard cash, but I guess I just did.
But all that woo woo, I believe in that completely. I do believe we're put here, we're brought here, we're with each other, we find each other, we find those moments, we learn to accept those signs and we learn to believe those. And it's us trying to accept what some of those things are in our lives, right? And letting them go too, because there's people come in and out of our lives that are meant to be there, that are not meant to be there, for us to recognize what those things are.
I talk about that a lot in my book, because one of the things that I talk about is that when you start to change your energy, like you become more independent, let's say, and you start doing things differently, because the book is all about claiming your power as an independent person and doing things on your own. It doesn't say stop doing things with other people, but it's all about learning to be powerful, dining alone, traveling alone, going to the museum alone, going shopping alone, really getting comfortable. One of the things that happens is if it's new for you, this is like a new version of you. I look at life like a jigsaw puzzle. You know, we fit in this pattern of our life. When you start to change yourself, you're lifting your puzzle piece out, changing the shape of that piece. And now everybody in your life has to figure out, can I fit with this new shape of this person in my life? And there are really three like ways people can handle it. One, some people will just say no, and they will disappear. Sometimes they disappear dramatically. Sometimes they just ghost and they're gone. They're not willing to do the work. Then there's other people who are like, woohoo, yeah, I love the new you. I'm happy to like adjust.
Congratulations.
And then there's the third, which my mother was one of these people back in the day when I kept changing who I was, is that really want to stay in your life, but don't want to change in the process. And so they will push back against your boundaries to try to get you to be who you were before. And that's a really hard negotiation, because you really have to trust and understand that they're not being negative on purpose. They're not trying to stop you from growing, but they're just uncomfortable with change in their own life.
Yeah.
And so that's where I feel like a lot of people just need to have some grace for themselves and the people around them. And I talk about that a lot in the book, because I feel like people need to be aware when you change, you just consciously understand everybody in your life is now being forced to change with you. And there's going to be some potential pushback.
There is. And I think it's so fascinating to talk about the woo-woo. I've talked about it before, about the puzzle. For me, I've said this to Danny. I believe everyone has a puzzle piece. I said, never ignore anyone and never ignore an opportunity. They may have 20 pieces to your puzzle. They may have none. They might be trying to steal your pieces, but to look at it that way, to try to see that helps. And I talk to my artists, but I've also, you and I talked about this, when you go after your dream, when you go after something, because Reese Witherspoon just talked about this, not about a dream, but about, not following a dream, but following your talent. And I thought that was a very interesting way to put it. But I when you follow that and go after what you want and put that time and work into something, you lose people, because people are afraid of the mirror. You're doing the thing they want to do. And you're a reminder that you can do those things and that they're not. I feel like I've seen that. We've talked about that. That's happened so often in our lives, especially as artists. People assume something. They assume now that you're going to be a gabillionaire because you've published a book. They assume, right? They assume I'm a gabillionaire because
from your lips to God's ears. Come on.
Listen, we'll take it. I'm happy to try it.
I'll take it.
I'll give it a shot. Money can't bring you happiness. Test me.
I know. I've always said that. I'm like, you know what? Let me put that to the test, and I will get back to you with my answer.
Yeah. We'll have a whole podcast about that. So I feel like, that's a very common part of this industry too, that we go through that when people, I want to do a show, I want to try doing this. And they do, and then they can't, or you're putting a mirror up that scares them. And I think, and again, I lost contemporaries because it was, they just didn't even want to talk because you're successful. Right.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult because they're not necessarily feeling that success for themselves, and I don't ever want to assume whatever they're thinking. I just know it happened.
Yeah. It's weird. Is that a couple of people that I assumed would be really supportive of this project are some people I know who are published authors who were not supportive.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah, same for other musicians.
And I just had to say, okay,
that's you.
I asked one of them,
not me, that's you. Sorry.
I asked one of them if they would just read some early draft of the book and give me an early praise quote. And their whole attitude was like, I'm too busy. I'm writing a book myself right now. I don't have time. I mean, it was really kind of dismissive. And I'm like, okay, fine.
Wow.
I will still buy your book because you're a good author. But yeah, so sometimes people will surprise you in very happy ways and sometimes not so happy ways.
Yeah. And it's the listening part. I know that the things that I've been, a lot of the things I've been thinking about, because, you know, I have a show that is consistent. I have a show that I'm working on. So it gives me, I have that bread and butter. So it gives me that freedom to do the other things. So writing the musical, writing songs. And I've been listening to people and trying to do, I was just talking about this with my ladies in the dressing room, and said, I'm really trying to match energy with people and really think about that. Like, if you're reaching out, I'm there, you know, not that I'm not punishing anyone. I just feel like, why am I wasting time pursuing something or someone that's not even attempting to come back, right? Or attempting
with you.
It's just not, I have so I've been listening and finding people. I've always wanted a writing partner. And through one of my bandmates for music, I've always wanted to write, you know, like Kenny and I do stuff, but like another lyricist, like singer songwriter kind of person. And I've kind of found this person, and we've just been introduced. So, but I can feel it, and I'm trying really hard to like not just be like, oh my gosh, we need to do this together. You know, have that, you know me.
Don't scare them.
Yes, exactly. Right. Don't like, I'm not somebody that's, I'm going to walk up to the edge. I run and jump off that cliff and then go,
too.
I hope there's water. There's water. Is there water? I hope there's water. Yeah. So I just, that's where my brain always is, you know, thinking about those other possibilities of things, and trying to hold myself accountable too, of I want to support what people are doing. And I always go back to Amy Poehler's good for them, not for me. Like, that's not what I'm doing. Good for them. Yep. You know, and I want to be that person because I feel better when I'm that person. I love to put, I am a person that when I'm not on social media a lot, I'm on enough, you know, but I'm on, you're somebody I read every day, and I always try to put the love button on it, because when I read stuff, I don't look at who it was. I know what yours are, you know, because I know that, but I love that and move on. And how hard was that to be kind? How difficult was that to be supportive and kind? Wow, you got cast, or you're in a show, or your kid has a birthday, or your dog just, you know, got a certificate, whatever. Yeah. You know, congratulations. Good for you, not for me.
It takes so little energy to be kind.
It does.
It's just,
and that's what this is supposed to be, supportive. And so I just, all the things I keep reading about your book, and I'm so excited for it to be out in the world. Yeah.
And you gave me a great quote that's on the back cover of the book. So,
I'm excited about that. I was, well, because it's true. It's a very true. I feel like I did, and I didn't think about it until I think I met you. What I had done, I went to Florida right after my dad died. He passed in August. We were in Florida at Christmas of December of 2005. He had died in August, and I auditioned. And Robin was like, you need to do something, because I was not okay. I was very despondent, and I got in and I moved somewhere. I moved in with a college student. I looked like I had not a dime to my name. He had plastic furniture. I had a mattress on the floor. I don't even know if there was a television in there. I had my keyboard. I had nothing. I had absolutely, because I was like, I'm not going to I had a car, you know, it's like, I didn't have a big vehicle to bring stuff, and I had just enough. And I'm like, I'm going to be here for, you know, a month. And then of course I get cast in the next show. So I was there for like 3 months out of the summer. But I remember so clearly, I don't know anyone, but boy, I want to try that restaurant. Yeah. I want to go there and do that. So I went, and that was the first time in my life I ever felt like I had tried that whole solo concept as well. And I'll never forget one of the places, it was called the Oaks. It's I don't know if it's still there in Siesta Key or in Sarasota, right as you come onto the key or off the key. And they had the little counter, and I would always sit up at the counter, and the ladies would always bring me, it was like a $6 plate of barbecue, and the best, you know, it's the South, the best barbecue you've ever had, sweet tea. And they had a little black and white television. What do you want to watch, honey? And I was like, I'm just so happy to be, you know, they were so sweet. And I went there, I would do that throughout Siesta Key and Sarasota. And so when you came along and you had the whole solo dining thing, and I was like, I get that now.
Uh-huh.
Like, I understand I wasn't going to sit in my apartment and cook for myself and not get out and meet. And I met so many people because of that.
Yeah, you do.
You know,
You do.
there's other people. Do you want to sit, like at the counter? We sat at the counter together, but we weren't at a table necessarily.
Yeah.
But you just talk and get to know
Yeah.
hey, they have this thing tomorrow night. Hey, we're doing, because and it wasn't, no one was feeling sorry for me,
No.
and I wasn't feeling sorry for myself.
Yep.
It was just that whole thing.
I remember thinking because I opened the book with that story the first time I ever dined alone, and it was totally by accident because friends just ghosted me and didn't show up. And this was the 80s.
Thank you for them ghosting you.
And
by
I
the
know,
way.
and there's
Thank
in
you.
the 80s there were no cell phones, so
Yeah, but thank you that they ghosted you.
But,
We have a book because of it.
I remember thinking, I can't do this, and I was starving, and I went, I got to do this. So I finally did, and I was convinced that everybody was staring at me, and I looked around, and nobody was paying any attention to me at all, and I suddenly went, oh, okay, and I kind of leaned into it. So that was in 1984 in the fall, and I feel like that was kind of the beginning. It was just a little thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't like suddenly make me completely independent and doing but it sort of planted a seed. And I think now the 40 something years later, the seed, or however long it is, 37 years later, the seed has sprouted,
And in a big way, but in a way of giving permission, not just to yourself, but to other people to realize, don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't wait. And you and I both know that with time. We've talked about the time thing very much. We both went through a cancer journey at the exact same time.
We did.
And
5 years ago.
Yes.
And I just passed my 5-year cancerversary. I am cancer free for 5 years. Thank you.
Mine is, I think it's, I have to look it up. I think it's in a few days.
It is, because
right?
You're just a little bit.
I was like 7 or 8 days. I have to look it up.
My surgery was April 23rd, and I know that yours was
mine was May.
About a month after.
Yeah,
mine.
so I have to look up the date because I'll go back. But here's the thing: you and I have talked about this. We don't get a bell because there's people that but they're going in for treatments. That's why they get to ring that bell. And so I had said this to some friends the other day. I said, now there's a tower at my church with a bell. If you see someone on the news that,
oh my God,
it's not going to be a small bell that I ring next week. So I think it's next week. So when I ring that bell of my 5 years and you see someone on the news climbed a bell tower at a church and rang the bell after hours, you'll be sitting over going, yeah.
I know who that is. Yeah.
You'll hear it from all over.
My final appointment is actually next week because I was out of town when it would normally have been. So it's basically just the perfunctory.
See, I don't even have that either. I don't even have a final. I still have to do blood work, that kind of thing.
I have to go back every 6 months for 5 years.
Yeah, same. So I'm done. I've passed that part, but now I'm on a yearly, I think, with blood work.
Yeah.
Just to check that. And I'm on a new regimen per my own I was very deficient in some electrolyte things and like my magnesium and that kind of stuff. And I did some of my own research. The doctors do the best they can with all of us. And so I figured out it was my electrolytes. The minute I started taking them, I swam a couple nights ago, and it's the first time I've swum in 5-6 years that my legs didn't cramp.
Awesome.
Wow.
So, and it's these electrolytes completely. And then I have a magnesium spray.
Yeah.
So that I've been putting on my legs at night too. So I'm sleeping, which I can't say I'm sleeping because I'm not the best sleeper, but I'm not getting leg cramps when I'm laying in bed.
That's good.
Kind of thing. So it's been very fascinating, that journey, that we've gone on. So you have a quote, because I want to hear your quote.
So what's one of the things I talk about, and the full title of the book is Eating Adverbs, a recipe for living fully, boldly, and unapologetically. Which I love that subtitle. It took a lot of work for the editors and me to come up with that. But one of the things I talk about a lot in the book is the idea of repetition. That the first time you do something, it might be a negotiation with yourself and it's uncomfortable. And then, the 10th time it's getting more natural. And the 100th time, it's just like who you are. Yeah. So repetition becomes rhythm, and that rhythm becomes just a natural part of who you are. So when I finished the book, one of the very last things that the publisher asked me to do before I submitted the final manuscript for review was you need to find an epigraph, a quote to open the book, to put on like a page by itself before the acknowledgement, or after the acknowledgement before the book starts. And so I was like, and that was a hard assignment. And I thought about it, and luckily I have a very retentive memory. And I remembered reading a biography like in the 90s. And it was the Martha Graham's biography. And it's called Blood Memory. It came out in the early 90s. And I remembered her saying something in that book that was about repetition. And so I, luckily at the time I was working at a college, so I had access to interlibrary loan.
Now I'm going to want this book.
So they found this book for me. And this is the epigraph that I decided to open the book with. This is Martha. And Martha Graham, actually, this was the opening paragraph of her book. So this is how she started her own book. I believe that we learn by practice, whether it means to learn to dance by practicing dancing or to learn to live by practicing living. The principles are the same. In each, it is the performance of a dedicated, precise set of acts, physical or intellectual, from which comes shape of achievement, a sense of one's being, a satisfaction of spirit. One becomes, in some area, an athlete of God. Wow. I love that quote.
That's incredible.
It's a great quote. And the book is called Blood Memory.
Now I'm going to have to look that. I love biographies. That's
yeah.
I'm so much more. I love, all books, but I appreciate biographies. I'd say probably like the last 4 or 5 years. And I think it's because of the journeys I've been on.
Yeah.
And hearing someone else's journey is, reinforcing, inspirational.
Yeah, and somebody like Martha Graham, had such a fascinating and bizarre and difficult life,
and yet
was like became such an icon and so famous. So I just felt like there was something about that quote that spoke to me, and also I think it's because it's a performing arts quote.
Yeah,
and I've spent my entire career in the performing arts, and leaving that field kind of behind, even though I'm still going to be involved.
Yeah,
but I'm leaving it in a different way, and I felt like I wanted to sort of send a love letter out to the arts through my book.
Well, you're leaving it better. You've changed many of us. You've supported so many of us, but you're not stopping. That's the thing. Yeah. You're not stopping, and this is just another aspect of being in the performing arts. You're sharing what your experiences were, but everything that we're doing, everything you're doing, everything you have left and will still be doing, you're still going to be doing, but in a different, with different tools. How's that? You're still supporting. Just because you're not at a venue it's right. You're always a singer. Just because you're not on a stage, you're still a singer. So you're still supporting the performing arts. Yeah. You're still bringing artists. People are still going to look at you and say, did you book this group? They're still going to come to you. That's still going to happen.
I'm getting it now, and I'm sure I'll keep getting it.
Always will.
And the goal for myself as a consultant is I really would love to consult with arts organizations that need help in learning how to curate a season, because that's really where my expertise has been. Particularly at the college level, because I spent 20 years in higher education running performing arts centers, balancing that issue of a mission with making money. And it's a real hard dance sometimes, because you know that you could book act A and it's going to sell a jillion tickets, but it's not a great show. And it's
not the mission.
Yeah. And it's not meeting the mission of the organization. But then they say you have to make money. And I'm like, well, okay. One of these things sometimes doesn't feed the other. So you have to become very, very creative in how you curate, and then also how you write grants and get extra funding and stuff. But
and you're we were talking, Robin and I were actually talking about this yesterday, because I'm looking at seasons, and I look at other seasons as I'm in the midst of booking right now for all of my artists. And, I see, this is a whole nother show that we will do later about, the fact that 75 to 80% of artists on a roster at any performing arts venue are male.
Yeah.
And
most of the sort of tribute acts that are out there are male tribute acts as well.
And yet here I am, 16, starting my 17th season, just sold out a 1,500 seat venue, still selling out giant venues. And yet the regard that I get, I know that I don't need those accolades, but it's the concept that I'm still having to work so hard for every single gig, when there are male artists that have come into the industry 2, 3, 4 years ago that are booking nonstop at giant venues, not following the rules of they don't have a great website and a great video and a great the things.
I know who
we
you're
know.
talking
Yeah,
about
we have plenty
too.
of those. So, and it's very frustrating to watch that and then to say, where's your commitment to gender? And I want to do that. I want to have that going forward. But not bringing this to what I'm talking about, but with what you did and what Robin and I were talking about, when you have someone, and you said it, you would bring an act that was your passion of say you've got 20 shows, you would bring one out of those 20 and you realize these other 19 are for the community. Like having that, people don't have that attitude, and that matters to that community.
I always had at least one in a season that I'm like, you know what?
What?
I want to see this show. So
but you did, and it was, Danny, look what you did for our son.
Yeah.
For him to see himself on stage, that there are other possibilities for him with his guitar.
Yeah.
And to see that you brought an act that was absolutely incredible.
That was
someone you loved.
Yeah.
But there was a gentleman who was at least 10, 15 years older than me with his grandson. They're sitting next to us, and he knew all about him. He was telling us about him before he even started.
Yeah.
And there were people there that were so passionate about the show, and it was such a, what you did.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's a guitarist called Lucas Tricagnoli, if anybody wants to go online and look him up.
He followed me. He found me before I found him. He has hundreds of thousands, but he was so, I think Danny really, I think that connection between the two of them, he's so gentle and kind.
He is gentle and kind. And it's one of the things as a presenter for all the years that I was doing it, that is so important to me. It's always been important to me. I mean, God knows I made some bonehead mistakes booking some people in my career that were not nice humans and made everyone's life miserable. But I always tried to think my crew is going to be there all day long with these people. Are they going to hate me at the end of the day? Or are they going to say, wow, that was cool? And the goal was for me to make sure that I booked people who were going to be respectful and treat the staff respectfully, because the staff is always going to treat them respectfully. One of the things that I learned from early on, and it was Liz Silverstein, who was an amazing agent who worked for Siegel Artist Management. And Liz was like my second mother. Yeah. And she was my mentor really early in my career. And she's the one that sort of gave me this paradigm of, when you are a presenter, think of it as your house, and you are inviting this person or this group to come to your house for dinner, let's say. You want to make sure that they have a really good experience when they visit you, because you've invited them into your space.
Yeah.
And that's how I really tried to hope that the crews that I work with and the teams that I've worked with treat the artists like that. The artists feel like they're welcome, that if they need something, they're going to get it, that there's not this contentious, it's not in your rider, so you can't have it thing. Now, I mean, there's a point where you have to say no, or
they're not going to spoil dinner either.
Exactly.
You don't want the artist to spoil the dinner either.
Exactly.
Because you've got, it's our family.
It's a give and take.
It is. But it's a very fascinating, and you did that.
I did. And I feel like there's so many presenters out there that look at it as a transactional thing. You are performing in my theater. I'm paying you money for it. It's like buying a widget, And I'm like, that's not what it is.
No.
But there are a lot of people who.
This is a lifetime relationship.
Yep.
I hope that when, I don't want to retire. I don't ever want to retire from this industry. Like, we've talked, I'm a worker. I want to work, whatever that means. I don't know if it'll be writing, if I'll still be booking and managing other people. I want to perform, but it's a family that I want to pass that legacy to my son. I want to pass that on to his friends that want to do this, that, some of them graduating last night and talking about that. And I feel so passionately about the arts and making sure that they're here, that they exist, and that everyone is given that opportunity. And why the next episode, we will talk about the gender thing. But we want to, before we go, again, we want to thank Lynn and Doug Steffen from One Stop Foods, 4301 South Lake Park Avenue in Chicago. This is that mom and pop shop that they're always there for us. We appreciate them so much. 773-624-4444. You stop in, you get your snacks, stop and get your milk on the way home.
The supermarket that you grew up with as a kid?
Yep.
That's
exactly what it is.
And we had one around the corner from my house when I was a kid, and I loved it. It was like a little tiny mom and pop.
And don't
store.
you miss those?
I do.
That's what I miss. Everything around me, there's only a couple of those little things like that. So I always appreciate that. So your book, I will send to Nico and we'll
That link will be in the description below.
Yes.
By the time you're seeing this, when this episode airs, his book should be releasing when this episode airs, because your book releases tomorrow, correct?
Yes. Well,
so
and if not tomorrow, the next day. So it's really soon.
Perfect.
And this is the ebook.
This is the ebook. The physical book will be available starting on June 1st.
So we are going to, I'm not sure when we're out. We'll be out.
I'm putting this out by tomorrow.
Oh,
this is going out tomorrow.
Look at that. So our episode is out tomorrow and we will get this on all the socials. And
so once
sure,
I get the link, once I get the email from Kindle that the book is available, I'll send it to you with the link. And then
we'll share that on the podcast station, and I'll share it on all of my socials and things, and we'll get that word out there. So we have a published author with us.
I know.
Who's going to come back. And I know we've had so much fun today. I'm hoping that, on every other week or one,
I'm retired now. What am I going to do?
Sounds like you just got a future co-host.
Listen, I'm just saying, I know.
I had no idea I was going to match the background today when I picked my shirt.
I know. What's funny is I have a nautical themed shirt, and I looked at it today and I went, no, I'll do the other one. But I did have the moment. It has crabs and lobsters.
Well, and I've got purple, so
it's perfect. So next time we'll be saying published author and all the things.
Yep.
And number one at whatever, we're going to put that number one on the list of the things. So that's what we believe in, the positive, and we believe in rocking the boat by remembering everyone supporting each other. When you do love someone, when you do care for them, when they are a part of your world, if they are a part of your world, you love and support them, and you show that by your actions every single time. So thank you for being here. You're going to be back. You know that.
I know.
You're
and thank you for having me. This was so
time.
much more fun than doing it virtually.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, please come in. And I know you were like, oh, yes, come in and do this. So rock that boat and make sure you go out and support all those people you love, starting with Tommy. I'll see you out on the road sometime. I think I'm back in June. I don't know. I think I'm in the Catskills. So I'll figure that out and put that in the post. Thank you. So I'd like to know it. You got the notion. Said I'd like to know it. You got the notion. Rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Then rock the boat, don't tip the boat over. Rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby.